really blessed as far as if you want to know who your grandparents were, for those of you who lived a little bit further across the miles. You know, I spent the greater part of my, especially probably from a baby to the first 6-7 years of my life, according to my mother, I was pretty much gone all the time. Grandma was, you know, she was a great cook. You know, my childhood memories are just, you know, the big meals, the homemade meals. The families would get together. When I was younger, we would celebrate our birthdays, so I have a lot of good memories as far as, you know, the aunts and uncles. Aunt Nancy and Uncle Pat still lived at home, so of course when I got to spend time down there, I felt like I got a lot of attention and I got spoiled, and they would do things with me, play with me. I remember one time Uncle Pat was going to go blackberry picking, and I begged and begged and begged to let him let me go, and he didn't want to take me. He knew what was going to happen. It was a hot summer day, you know, I was going to get tired, you know, get scratched by the thorns, you know. He knew what was going to happen, but I begged. Finally, you know, Grandma was like, oh, just let her go, let her go. Sure enough, we got back there, and it wasn't too long. He had to come dragging me all the way back up to the house. Grandpa was always, you know, just full of, you know, as Karen said, you know, he's always wanting to come in and smooch on you, and he'd be sweating. And as a kid, you know, he'd come up and grab you, and, you know, he hadn't shaved, and, you know, his whiskers would just be scratching your face left and right, and you're just like, you know, and Grandma's like, Ted, leave them kids alone. But a lot of great, wonderful memories. Your grandpa was very, very proud of his family, of all of us. His own children.
Oh, yeah.
The grandchildren, whether you were near or far, he was sure he would meet a stranger and he'd be calling you all out by name. They wouldn't have a clue who you were, but he was, you know, he was talking about you. Let's see.
What about Grandpa's storytelling?
Yeah, yes. Grandpa could tell. He had a great memory. He would pass down, you know, stories. We should have paid more attention, as someone had mentioned earlier. As far as memories with the Stevensons, I remember Aunt Jeannie as a little child. We had gone over one time, and we had dinner. And this is when they lived on the farm. They had a farm. And they had this dog, and I remember they kept telling me to leave that dog alone. Okay? And the next thing you know, it was time for the dog to eat, and I kept messing with this dog, and the next thing you know, this dog got a hold of my ear and bit it. Yeah, that's how, yeah. So that's a memory that stuck out. I remember great-grandpa Boyer. I think he lived to be 106. So I think it was, they had a big celebration, a write-up in the newspaper when he was like, what, 100 at that time? Or, let's see. Aunt Jeannie, what I remember about Aunt Jeannie too, as far as a child's perception, she was very sweet. She was very, very proper, very mannerly. She was just a very eloquent lady. I'm trying to think of some other memories. Aunt B was always, she was very pleasant to talk to. Like, she would take the time to talk to you even though you were a child. You know, you kind of felt like you were an adult because it was like she would just include you right in, you know, with the conversation. And I remember going with Grandpa a few times even over to Circleville to visit Aunt B. And I think it was Bill. Yeah, Bill. I have just a slight memory of Uncle David. Just, I remember, memory-wise, I can see him. I can't really say I engaged in any conversation, but I was a little girl at that point. As far as Uncle Dick, I remember Uncle Dick and all of you had come to our house one time, and we had a really, really good time. We had this old white station wagon, and I remember we sat in there, and somehow, I think we was playing some game like we was like in a spaceship or something.
Yeah, that 63 Ford Fairlane
Yeah,
station wagon.
yeah. just a lot of good memories. I remember I was upset when Aunt Nancy got married because, like I said, she spent a lot of time with me and, you know, did things with me. I remember I was very upset when Uncle Pat got married. I remember coming home from their wedding and bawling on the airplane because I knew he wasn't coming back. I remember that. Now, Aunt Margie was already gone, but Aunt Margie was really good through the years. She would have us over. Aunt Margie would take us on like little mini vacations and trips to the zoo or SeaWorld, or she would take us out. She would buy us some things, you know, through the years. So, let's see what else. Aunt Margie was always stern with us. I remember I had this really bad habit as a child. I think I probably had sinus issues, and I would snort a lot. And it would embarrass Aunt Margie so bad. So I remember, because I used to get elbowed all the time in the side. My favorite memories too is when the families would get together and we would make homemade ice cream. And I call it like the vintage cranks. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, the hand crank.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So those were, you know, some of my memories growing up as a child. I have one memory of Aunt Juanita. They tell me that I would not have even been 3 years old, but we had gone to visit. And I remember she had taken some candy out of this container on top of her refrigerator. And I mean, I distinctly remember it. I wasn't dreaming. I remember she took it down and she gave it to me. That's the only memory I have of her.